Mr. R wanted us to learn, and we,
Jassmine
and Gwen, from his third period chemistry, have learned to a B and C level the following concepts from the first 12 chapters of our chemistry book. This is not an inclusive list, but our selection of concepts from each chapter that we will remember. In Chapter 1, Intro to Chemistry, we learned the scientific method is a logical, systematic approach to the solution of a scientific problem by using steps to include a hypothesis, observation, test, and developing theories. In Chapter 2, Matter and Change, we learned where differences in physical properties can be used to separate mixtures, and there are two different ways to separate them, filtration and distillation. Filtration is a process that separates a solid from liquid, like using a colander to strain pasta. Distillation is a way to separate water from other compounds. In Chapter 3, Scientific Measurement was about scientific notation, and how a given number is written as a product of two numbers, a coefficient and 10 raised to a power. So the scientific notation of 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd power is written in scientific notation. Chapter 4, Atomic Structure, and the history of the atomic theory begins with a man named Democritus. He was the first to suggest the existence of atoms, though he couldn't explain many things about them. And it wasn't until 2,000 years later when a man named John Dalton came around with Dalton's atomic theory to help him support it. Chapter 5, Electrons and Atoms, with the atomic emission spectra of the frequencies of light emitted by an electron separates into discrete lines to give the atomic emission spectra of an element. When atoms absorb energy, electrons move into higher energy levels. These electrons then lose energy by emitting light when they return to lower energy levels, i.e. atomic emission spectra. Chapter 6 is the periodic table, and there are three types of elements: metals, which are good conductors; nonmetals, which are poor conductors, except for carbon; and metalloids that have similar properties to metals and nonmetals.
In Chapter 7, Ionic and Metal Bonding, we learned that valence electrons are the electrons that are in the highest occupied energy level of an element's atom. The number of valence electrons largely determines the chemical properties of an element. Chapter 8, Covalent Bonding, we learned that molecular formulas provide information like the chemical formula for a molecular compound. They also show how many atoms of each element a molecule contains. Chapter 9, Chemical Names and Formulas. There is a difference between cations and anions. Cations are any atom or group of atoms with positive charge. Anions are like cations because any atom or group of atoms I don't really know where that was going, but they aren't like cations because they have a negative charge. In Chapter 10, Chemical Quantities, we learned that there are three different ways to measure matter. You could do it by counting. By count, by mass, or by volume. Just like there are many ways to buy soda, by liter, by cans. Chapter 11, we learned chemical reactions. We learned that there are 5 different types of chemical reactions: combination reactions, decomposition reactions, single replacement reactions, double replacement reactions, and combustion reactions. In Chapter 12, Stoichiometry, we learned that a conversion factor is a ratio of equivalent measurements used to convert a quantity from one unit to another. Mole ratio, on the other hand, is a conversion factor derived from the coefficients of a balanced chemical equation interpreted in terms of moles. These are the concepts we'll remember in Mr. R's third period chemistry class during the first semester.
Nicely done.